In my courtroom, I have learned one hard truth. A poor man often comes in afraid, but a rich fool sometimes walks in like he owns the floor, the walls, and even the law. On the day I am about to tell you about, one billionaire thought he could buy justice with a smile and a stack of money. Think you already know how this ends? Stay with me because what happened in that room shocked even the officers standing beside me. I have sat on that bench for more than 40 years. That is long enough to see every kind of person. I have seen people cry over a $50 fine because that $50 meant food for the week. I have seen veterans stand straighter than young men half their age. I have seen mothers carry 3 jobs, 2 children, and 1 broken heart into my courtroom and still say, "Good morning, Your Honor." And I have seen people with money so big, so loud, and so proud that they think respect is something they never have to give. My father taught me something when I was young. He said, "Frank, if a man uses money to make another person feel small, then the money is not serving him. It is controlling him." I never forgot that. And on October 14th, 2025, in Providence Municipal Courtroom 2, at exactly 9:18 a.m., I saw that lesson come alive in front of me. The clerk called case number MC 25-11847. The defendant stood up. His name was Damian Royce Mercer, 33 years old, founder of a flashy tech shipping company that moved luxury goods and bragged about elite delivery for elite lives. He walked into my courtroom like it was the lobby of a private club. He wore a dark Tom Ford suit, a white Brunello Cucinelli shirt, and a Hermes tie with a silver tie bar. His watch was a gold Rolex Daytona. His shoes were Christian Louboutin loafers with red soles. On one finger he wore a heavy signet ring. He had a Louis Vuitton travel bag beside his chair, though he was only there for a hearing. Outside, parked where everyone could see it, was his black Lamborghini Revuelto, polished so bright it looked wet. He did not come alone. He had a lawyer, a publicist, and a woman who I later learned handled his social media. He looked bored before the hearing even started. He glanced around the room the way some people look at old furniture in a waiting room, like everything there was beneath him. Then I looked across the room at the woman he had hurt. Her name was Elena Rosario. She was 47 years old, a night shift nurse at St. Mary's Medical Center for 22 years, widow, mother of 2. Her daughter Sophia was 11 and fighting lupus. Her son Mateo was 19 and working part-time while taking classes at community college. Elena also cared for her father, Rafael Rosario, a retired Marine sergeant who served 2 tours and now walked with a cane after years of damage to his knees and lungs. Elena had come straight from work. Her scrub top was hidden under a plain brown coat. Her hospital ID badge still hung from her pocket. She looked tired, but she stood with dignity. Some people wear grace better than rich people wear designer clothes. The charge started as a crash, but it was never just a crash. On September 28, 2025, at 10:47 p.m., Elena was driving home in a 2012 Toyota Corolla after finishing an extra shift. She had picked up those hours because Sophia's medication bill had gone up. She was heading toward a late-night pharmacy on Atwells Avenue. At the corner of Memorial Boulevard and South Main Street, Damian Mercer came flying through in his Lamborghini at 86 miles per hour in a 25 zone. He cut across 2 lanes, clipped the rear side of Elena's car, and slammed her into the curb. Her front axle snapped. Her head hit the window. Her left shoulder twisted hard under the seat belt. Her car spun halfway around, and then he did something that told me exactly what kind of man I was dealing with. He did not run to help her. He rolled down his window and yelled, "Learn how to drive before you bring scrap metal onto a real road." That was in the witness statement. Elena told me what happened next in a quiet voice. She said, "Your Honor, I was trying to find my phone under the seat. My arm hurt so bad I could not lift it. I asked him to call 911. He stared at my car first. Then he stared at me. Then he laughed. I asked, 'What did he do after that?' She swallowed and said, 'He took out his phone and started filming me.' The whole room fell silent. A bus driver named Marcus Hill had seen the crash and called 911 at 10:49 p.m. Officer Jenna Carver, badge number 266, arrived at 10:56 p.m. She found Elena on the curb, shaking and pale, while Damien stood beside the Lamborghini, looking angry about a scratch on the passenger side panel. Not angry about the nurse he had just hurt, angry about the paint. Elena's damages were not small. Her car repair estimate came to $8,142.16. She missed 9 work shifts. Her shoulder had a partial rotator cuff tear. She needed physical therapy twice a week. Her daughter's medicine was delayed because Elena had to choose between paying the deductible and buying the prescription. That is how cruel people cause damage. They do not just hit metal. They hit rent money, medicine money, grocery money, sleep, and peace. When I asked Damien if he understood the charges, he gave me a little shrug. "Yes, Judge," he said. "I understand that this city likes drama." His lawyer tried to soften things. He called it a misunderstanding. He said there was mutual fault. He said the victim may have moved unpredictably. I have heard many ways to dress up a lie. That was one of them. I asked Damien, "Did you stop to assist the injured driver?" He said, "I stayed long enough to see that she was alive." I said, "That is not assistance." He leaned back and said, "Well, I'm not an ambulance." That line landed badly. Elena looked down. Officer Ruiz, my bailiff, shifted his weight. Even the clerk stopped typing for a second. Then Officer Carver took the stand. She testified that Damien smelled of alcohol when she arrived, not heavy, but present. She asked if he had been drinking. He answered, "Only the expensive kind." She asked him to step away from the car. He looked at her badge and said, "Do you know who I am?" That question always tells me a lot. It means I think the law bends for me. Before I tell you what the evidence showed next, do me a favor. If you believe money should never be bigger than truth, stay with me, because this case kept getting uglier every few minutes. The city showed traffic camera footage from the corner, grainy but clear enough. The Lamborghini cut hard left, hit Elena's Corolla, stopped for 7 seconds, then rolled forward a little as if trying to protect itself from other cars. You could see Elena stumble out holding her arm. Damien's window came down. He looked right at her. Then he looked away. It was not confusion, it was choice. Then Marcus Hill testified he was calm. He did not speak with anger. He did not need to. The prosecutor asked, "What did you hear the defendant say?" Marcus answered, "He said, 'This is why poor people shouldn't drive near carbon fiber.'" I looked at Damien. "Did you say that?" He smirked. "I say a lot of things when I'm annoyed." That answer told me just as much as a confession. Then came Elena's medical file. Partial tear in the shoulder, neck strain, headaches. Her supervisor also sent a letter saying Elena had used the last of her paid leave to keep her daughter's insurance active for a scheduled infusion on October 3rd. Elena had not even led with that. I asked her why not. She said, "Because my daughter is not part of this court's burden, Your Honor. I only want the truth." People in pain who still speak with dignity have a power no billionaire can buy. Then the prosecutor introduced bank records. On October 2nd at 8:14 a.m., Elena received a wire transfer for $25,000 from an account tied to Mercervale Family Office. 3 minutes later, she received an email from an assistant working for Damien. Attached was a statement for her to sign. It said she had not been seriously injured and may have overreacted from fatigue after work. In plain language, it was a lie prepared for her signature. The email said, "Accept funds, withdraw complaint, no further noise." I asked Elena, "What did you do?" She said, "I sent the money back." Why? Because my father taught me not to sell the truth. There are moments when a whole courtroom silently chooses a side. That was one of them. I asked Damien if he authorized the transfer. He did not deny it. He said, "I authorized an efficient resolution." I said, "You mean a payoff?" He smiled. "You can call it whatever plays best in this room." Then things got worse. The prosecutor had a search warrant for Damien's phone and public social accounts. I granted admission. That was when his face changed, just a little. But I saw it. Arrogant people stay calm only when they think they control the story. The first item was a text exchange with a friend saved as Rex Monaco. "Rex, you good?" Damien, "Fine. Some nurse in a toaster got dramatic." Rex, "Cops?" Damien, "Yeah. Tiny town energy." Rex, "Pay it and ghost." Damien, "She'll cry, then cash." Elena closed her eyes when that was read. The second item was a voice note Damien had sent at 11:36 p.m. to someone saved as Councilman D. In it, he said, "I need this cleaned up before it starts trending. I'm not getting dragged by some Rhode Island nurse." Then Officer Carver added one more detail. She said that after noticing Elena's hospital badge on the ground at the crash scene, Damien looked at it and said, "Perfect. A martyr in scrubs." The room was so still I could hear paper move on the clerk's desk. At that point, I asked Damien, "Do you understand the seriousness of this case?" He looked right at me and said, "With respect, Your Honor, in my world this is a minor inconvenience." That sentence stayed with me because it revealed his whole heart. Then the prosecutor asked to show social media evidence. The first post was from Damien's Instagram story at 12:04 a.m. It showed him in a penthouse with city lights behind him and a bottle of Dom Perignon on the table. Across the screen he had typed, "Survived another peasant pileup. Some people need a permit before driving near real cars." There was a murmur in the gallery. The second post was from TikTok at 12:31 a.m. Damien stood beside the scratched Lamborghini, laughing. He zoomed in on the mark and said, "This scar cost more than her whole life." Then he added, "Nurse almost fainted from my parking aura." That was the moment Elena's son Mateo lowered his head and clenched both fists. He had been trying to stay calm. I could see it. Good people often try not to make a scene even when they have every right to. The third post was from Snapchat at 1:08 a.m. Damien was in a private club called Ember Room. Music pounded in the background. He lifted a glass and said, "To surviving third world traffic in luxury districts." Someone asked off camera, "What about the woman?" Damien laughed and said, "If she's smart, she'll take the money and thank me." I said, "Mr. Mercer, do you deny making these posts?" He said, "Social media is performance." I answered, "So is character. Yours is just on display." That should have been enough to humble him. It did not. Instead, he looked around my courtroom and said the ugliest thing yet. He said, "Maybe this room is obsessed with this because for people here, money still feels magical. In my life, accidents are handled by staff. This whole court is acting like a scratched car, and a tired nurse or some great moral event." That is what he said. He did not just insult Elena. He insulted every working person in that room. He insulted the court. He insulted the city. And he tried to insult me by class. I took off my glasses and set them down. Then I said, "Mr. Mercer, I come from people who worked hard for every dollar and still treated others with respect. If that sounds small to you, then I am proud to be small. Before I tell you what broke his confidence for good, let me ask you this. Were you expecting arrogance? Fine. But were you expecting what the agents found next on his own phone? Stay with me, because the story was no longer just about one crash. The prosecutor then told me the social media warrant had uncovered deleted messages tied to a wider federal investigation. Now the courtroom changed. You could feel it. The case moved from ugly to dangerous. A message sent at 2:23 a.m., the night of the crash, read, "Need the city thing buried before Treasury starts sniffing." Another said, "Move funds off the Shell account. Also, wipe clip of the nurse." Then a draft note from Damien's phone, time-stamped 1:44 a.m., read, "Bought the silence. Next time hit harder or they keep talking." Damien slammed his hand on the table. "That was a joke." The prosecutor calmly answered, "That is not for this court alone to decide." Then Assistant City Solicitor Marlene Keats informed me that 2 federal agents were already in the courthouse. They had been waiting for authentication of the digital records. I allowed them in. Special Agent Lila Bennett from the Financial Crimes Task Force and Special Agent Omar Singh from Treasury Enforcement walked into my courtroom at 10:26 a.m. The minute Damien saw them, he sat up straight for the first time all morning. Agent Bennett asked permission to speak. I granted it. She said her office had been investigating Damien Mercer and several companies tied to him for wire fraud, obstruction, false charitable filings, and money movement through shell corporations connected to imported luxury vehicles. She said the attempted payment to Elena, along with the false affidavit, could support a witness tampering charge. That was the moment his lawyer stood and asked for a recess. Damien turned and snapped, "For what?" That one line told me something beautiful. He was not in control anymore, and he had finally started to feel it. We took a short recess. Elena stayed seated. She looked less angry than tired. That is something cruel people never understand. Ordinary good people do not enjoy court. They do not enjoy revenge. They just want the hurting to stop. When we resumed, something happened that I did not expect. An older man stood up from the back row. Silver hair, expensive overcoat, sharp face, but tired eyes. It was Damien's father, Charles Mercer, a powerful man by every outside measure, the kind who probably had doors open before he even touched them. He asked if he could speak. I allowed it. He walked forward and looked first at Elena, then at his son. His voice shook, but it did not break. "Ms. Rosario," he said, "I cannot repair what my son has done to your life. I cannot restore your dignity with money, and I will not ask this court for mercy that he never showed you." Damien hissed, "Dad, stop." But his father kept going. "Judge, I spent years teaching him how to win. I failed to teach him how to be decent. Whatever lawful sentence you impose, I will not interfere. If federal charges follow, I will not interfere there either." That mattered, not because it fixed anything, but because truth spoken against your own blood is costly, and cost gives words weight. Damien exploded. He stood and shouted, "You're really doing this over some nurse in a junk car?" Officer Ruiz took one step toward him. I said, "Sit down, Mr. Mercer." He pointed toward Elena. "She's milking this. They all do." That was enough for me. I banged the gavel and said, "One more outburst and I will have you restrained." He laughed. "You wouldn't dare." Elena then asked if she could say one thing. I let her. She stood with her blue folder in both hands and said, "Your Honor, I do not want to destroy him. I just want him to understand that when he hit my car, he did not hit a thing. He hit my daughter's medicine. He hit my father's groceries. He hit the little piece I had left after a 12-hour shift. And when he laughed, that hurt more than the crash." That was one of the strongest things I've ever heard in a courtroom. I turned to Damien. "Do you have anything to say before I rule?" He looked at me with open hatred now. "Yes, you want to punish me because people love watching rich men fall. That's all this is, a performance for small people." I answered slowly because some moments deserve clean words. "No, Mr. Mercer, I am going to punish you because you injured a working woman, mocked her pain, tried to buy her silence, insulted this court, and treated decency like weakness. Your money is not the reason you stand here, your character is." Then I ruled. I found the evidence overwhelming on reckless driving, failure to render aid, harassment, attempted witness influence, and contemptuous conduct in court. I imposed the highest lawful fines available. I ordered full restitution for Elena's repairs, medical costs, therapy, and lost wages. The total judgment in municipal penalties and restitution came to $128,460.73 due within 30 days. But I was not finished. Money would not teach this man the lesson he needed, so I suspended his driving privileges for 3 years. I ordered 1,000 hours of supervised community service at St. Mary's Medical Center, where he would clean waiting rooms, push wheelchairs, deliver meals, and assist families in the overnight care wing. I ordered another 300 hours with the Veterans Mobility Program, helping disabled veterans get to treatment and physical therapy. If Rafael Rosario agreed, Damien would start there. Damien shot to his feet. "Absolutely not." I said, "Sit down." He did not. So I looked at Officer Ruiz and gave the order, "Handcuff him." The whole room froze for 1 second. Then Officer Ruiz and Deputy Marshal Karen Doyle moved in. Damien stepped back, stunned. Real fear had finally reached him. He looked at his lawyer. "Do something." The lawyer stayed still. He looked at his father. "Dad?" His father did not move. Then the cuffs closed around his wrists, and the sound of that metal was the first honest thing that had touched him all morning. "If you're still here, then you're my kind of people. You believe fairness matters, even when the person in trouble arrives in a Lamborghini. So stand with this story in your heart, and remember this community always has room for truth." As Damien was being secured, Agent Bennett stepped forward with federal paperwork. She informed him he was being detained pending processing tied to obstruction, witness tampering, and financial fraud matters. She read him his rights while he kept saying, "This is insane. This is insane." No, it was not insane. It was consequence. Then something happened that made the whole moment feel complete. Rafael Rosario, Elena's father, stood up with his cane. He looked straight at Damien and said, "Judge, if he's doing those service hours with veterans, send him to me first. I'll teach him how to push a wheelchair without thinking the man in it is beneath him." I smiled at that, because wisdom sometimes comes in one perfect sentence. Damien was let out. His suit was still expensive, his watch was still gold. His shoes were still red on the bottom, but none of it mattered anymore, because for the first time in a long time, he was not protected by wealth, image, followers, or family. He was just another man answering for what he had done. After the room cleared, I sat there for a minute. I thought about my father. I thought about Elena driving home late after caring for strangers all night. I thought about the quiet heroism of people who work, serve, sacrifice, and still get mocked by those who think luxury means superiority. It does not. Justice is not perfect. It cannot erase a shoulder injury. It cannot give Elena back the lost sleep, the fear, or the pain her children felt watching that social media cruelty. But justice can still do one holy thing. It can draw a line. It can say, clearly and without apology, that there is no Rolex heavy enough, no Lamborghini fast enough, and no bank account large enough to place one human being above the dignity of another. I have said it for years, and I believe it now more than ever. The law must not bow to class. A judge must not be dazzled by wealth. And a courtroom must remain one place where a nurse and a billionaire stand on the same floor under the same truth. What stayed with me most was not the insult, not the handcuffs, not even the federal agents. It was Elena sending that money back. A woman with bills on her table, a sick child at home, and a veteran father to care for, still chose truth over comfort. That kind of honesty is rarer than diamonds, and worth more. So if you ask me what this case meant, I would tell you this. A courtroom is not just where laws are spoken. It is where values are tested. Some people walk in thinking they can buy the ending, but the right ending cannot be bought. It must be earned. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If this kind of justice means something to you, keep close, because next time I'll tell you about the young man who laughed at a parking ticket until one witness stood up and changed the whole courtroom.